Okay, so through my schooling as an adult learner, I'm going to school for social work, learning a ton. I'm recognizing that there is quite the stigma I have about sobriety, about that word, about the terminology that other people believe when you say sober. Saying that you are sober equals, for me, because I grew up with a dad who was an alcoholic, sober equaled someone who struggled every single day to not drink. Being sober equaled going to AA meetings every single day so that he did not drink. Sober equaled having sponsors, maybe being a sponsor at some point. That was my dad's experience, at least. That's what sobriety meant to me growing up, because that was my experience. And now, as a 37-year-old adult woman, I'm recognizing that my sobriety journey was just as equally hard as my dad's, because the two of us are living completely different lives. So therefore, my hard was not like his hard, but it was still hard for me. I still struggled a lot. And I think when we think rock bottom, we think someone in a ditch somewhere with a totaled car, going to jail, getting sent off to rehab, losing their job, right? But I did hit rock bottom. I did hit a pivotal moment in my life when I said, this needs to stop. Me being hungover every single morning needs to stop. That's rock bottom. I was taking my lack thereof accountability of my emotions and turning it into drinking. Therefore, yes, that was rock bottom for me. It might not be rock bottom for you. Yours might look different. But why does it have to be rock bottom to equal getting help, stopping, acknowledging that you need the support? It doesn't need to be this way. But what can be true is that it's hard. It's hard trying to control something that you can't control. That's hard. It's just like trying to control your 3-year-old, because you can't control your 3-year-old. Your 3-year-old's its own little person out in the world. What you can do is put boundaries around said 3-year-old. I'm just making this up as I'm just trying to figure out an analogy that makes sense. Like, I have no control over alcohol. Alcohol now, today, 4.5 years later, has no control over me. None. Do I think I romanticize about alcohol and how fun it could have been had I learned to do it the right way? But I didn't learn that. I started drinking this last time. So what would that have been? 6 years ago? I started drinking because we started watching Mad Men. And I watched how fun and kind of romantic it looked drinking. And so then I started drinking again because I thought, oh, I can easily. No, I can't. Never once in my life was I able to control alcohol. Never once in my life was I able to successfully count calories and not let that then affect my mental health. So I don't count calories. I can't. It doesn't help me mentally. Alcohol it consumed my life at the age of 17 because that was what I knew to be true as to how I could get friends, how friends would become, my friend. And it only got worse in my 20s. It only got worse, where I would binge drink every single time that I would drink. I'd be binge drinking. I'd be blacking out. I'd be making awful choices. But I recognized that those choices were not me. Because if it was me, I wouldn't be doing the things that alcohol kind of had me doing. I was not a good friend on alcohol, not a good partner on alcohol at all. But now looking back, it's sad to think of that young girl who was really just crying out for help, who had so much anxiety in her nervous system that alcohol just helped kind of quiet everything. But now, as a 37-year-old woman who went back to school, who is continuing to learn more and more about attachment styles, about the way our body holds on to trauma, I'm able to learn that I made the right choice for myself when it comes to not drinking. Because when you have to think about something all day, every day, whether that's being hungover or it could be you're thinking about when are you going to drink next? How are you going to drink next? Are you able to control how much you're going to drink? Maybe you should only get a can of wine instead of a bottle because then maybe that way you'll be able to drink less. It was exhausting. And I was a new mom and I was already exhausted. So exhausted. I was so tired. And so that's when in 2020, I was drinking so much. And I then listened to Day 7 by Dax Shepard. I listened to it three times in a row. And I said, that's me, he's me. That's what I've been doing, secretively drinking to cope with the anxiety that I had. And it wasn't fair for anyone, including myself. And so because I saw myself in him, I stopped. And that was December 28th, 2020. I stopped drinking. We were on our way to a funeral for a family member. And I had to stop. And that saved my marriage. It saved my relationship with my daughter. It allowed me to then get pregnant with my second daughter. I was having a really hard time getting pregnant with my second because I was drinking so much. My body was just like, you are not healthy, girl. Like, we cannot do this pregnancy thing again if you're going to continue to drink. And granted, I had stopped drinking years before I had my first. So I think that time I was probably sober for about 4 years, and then I had my first, and then I started drinking again maybe when she was about 18 months old. and only drank for about 6 months or so. And then I shortly realized, you can't do this. Like, this relationship needs to be done with alcohol. And this is very vulnerable of me, but I know that there are so many women out there who are working full time, trying to grind and make this thing successful. This thing, as in maybe you're a part of a startup, or you're trying to continue to move up the ladder, whatever your career is. I went back to school because I realized while being sober that what I was doing wasn't fulfilling for me. I needed a degree, a master's degree, in order to do psychotherapy. And so I went back to school and started it. And so I've been sober for 4.5 years. It'll be 5 years in December. And it was the best choice I ever made. It gave me my life back, myself back, my emotions back. It helped me really get grounded with what I do and don't need in my life, who I don't need in my life. It helps you perspective-wise around the type of friends, all these different relationships that you have in your life. And it was just, so fulfilling. I'm looking outside because it's pouring rain right now. And I love the rain. Anyways, if you have any questions, I know that wasn't really my intention for this video, but I knew that I needed to get something like this out there. Because there's quite a stigma around being sober, staying sober, and I had that stigma myself. And I'm just recognizing that just isn't true. When I drank, I was an alcoholic. Period, the end. But I don't consider myself an alcoholic because I don't drink. That in and of itself is another mind thing that I guess I need to work on, because I don't consider myself an alcoholic, because it's not a struggle for me day in and day out. Like choosing not to drink, it's not a struggle. Like I just say I'm done. I feel like what would be more of a struggle for me is to not have Diet Coke every day. That's more of a struggle. But when I did drink alcohol, I was an alcoholic because I did not know how to stop. There was no off filter at all. But now that I don't drink, that's why I consider myself sober. I consider myself alcohol free. And that's just the lifestyle that I live. So if you resonate with any or all of that, I'd love for you to comment below, and let's go on this journey together. You are loved, you are safe. Well, you deserve to be safe, and you matter. Talk to you soon.